I actually created this kind of first version of this talk three years ago. One of my friends in Alibaba asked me to do some kind of internal sharing of any subject I would like to. So, but I said that it might be good to first learn some of their challenges so that we can come up with a more meaningful topic for them. So then she shared with me that one of the struggles was this. So those teams appeared efficient. They actually had many teams. But the overall value delivery from the whole organization wasn't that optimal. So that conversation actually inspired me to create this talk. So from local efficiency to global value. After that, I've evolved in this talk. So recently, like this year, I have incorporated a section exploring the impact of AI for this very trend. All right. So firstly, we will look at what local efficiency means. So we will look at what is local, what is efficiency, understand why it is not sufficient to only have local efficiency if our goal is to achieve global value. So then we will look at this, how we can switch our focus from local efficiency to global value without, I put it here without AI, but this is because that initially I didn't look at this issue from AI's point of view. So then, of course, we will do that first, and then we will add, if now AI becomes a major thing, then what's the impact of AI? How can we make a better use of AI to support this very transition? All right. So local efficiency is really look at efficiency from team's perspective. So at team level, this is essentially team efficiency. But what is local? I mean, it's a concept of team scope. Then the team scope is essentially decided by the team structure. So we will look at a few different kinds of team structures firstly. So here it's from functional view. So being local or being global is not really a binary thing. It's not a binary thing. It's really a spectrum. If we look at one team, if they only work on single function, so that's sort of local, right? But if we add second function, third function, until it becomes fully cross-functional, so it's getting to more and more global. Right? So this is one view to look at the locality. And this is another view. Let's say several components make a subsystem, and several subsystems make a system. Then several systems make a product. Then one team can only work on one component. They can expand their scope to work on a subsystem and system and so on. So this is more local, and this is more global. Until our team can work on really cross-functional, fully cross-functional, focusing on the whole product. What their output was essentially task. Before we reach that state, teams should work from end to end. So if we consider efficiency as the output per time unit for a team, then essentially for the team who haven't reached fully cross-functional whole product team, it's essentially task efficiency. The problem with task efficiency is, even though that you have completed 99% of tasks, the feature may not work still. So we can also look at efficiency from another view. Let's say the team is already developed feature from end to end. The feature and value are two different things. Let's say one team is able to deliver, let's say, 5 features per sprint. Another team can deliver, let's say, 3 features per sprint. If you look at output and feature, number of features, then the first team is more efficient than the second one. But if you take into account the value, probably among the 5 features the first team delivered, there's only one that is variable. But the third team, they only deliver 3 features, but all of them are variable. Then which one is more efficient? Right? You will get a different answer. Okay, here's another type of team structure. Suppose that we have the product, like Trip.com could be a product. Then it can be divided into several domains. For example, tours, hotels, flights, and so on. We can further split that into smaller domains. Let's say call it subdomains. Then, for example, tours domain can be divided as group tours, private tours, study tours, and so on. If one team can only work in a subdomain, it's very local. But if it expands the scope to work on the domain, it gradually increases becoming a more local team, right? Until eventually any team can work on the whole product. So suppose that your team is working on domain or subdomain. What you can do is to optimize the value inside that scope. Right? You can, for example, you have one product backlog for tours domain. Then you can always working on highest value thing from that domain. But it's just local value. The value optimization from local perspective, right? So it could be different once you put that highest value stuff in the whole entire product. It may not be that valuable. So this is another view. So that's kind of summarize the journey, the transition. How can we shift our focus from task to gradually to feature, then value? But firstly, value optimization happens in the local level, but gradually make it global value optimization. So this is the very journey we are going to explore. Okay, let's first focus on how can we move away from task focus to feature focus. Right? Because end-to-end feature is a necessary condition to creating value. So that's kind of the first step we need to focus on. If we look at feature cycle time from end to end, you do some kind of like value stream mapping analysis, so you will discover that not all the time is spent in developing like changing components and so on. A lot of also other times are spending in waiting and integrating. So we need to understand why waiting time, why integration takes so long. So waiting, usually what happens is that because we need multiple teams working together in order to deliver one end-to-end feature. So there's cross-team dependency. That causes teams needing to waiting from each other. And integration. Why it takes so long? Because there are silos across teams. So silos can come from 2 dimensions. One is the motivation. Are people willing to work together? Let's say if we have a bug from the integration, then if every team say, oh, your team need to investigate that first, until you find some evidence that this is our problem, we're not gonna look at it. Then if every team behaves this way, then it makes the integration very long. Right? Another thing is even though that people are willing to work together, they also need to be capable of working together. So if for every team is very narrowly specialized, they couldn't understand each other's language. A front-end team only knows front-end, back-end team only knows back-end. So we are component A team, you are component B team, but we speak different language, technical language. That would make integration harder and make it taking longer. So we have a solution. A simple solution is a feature team, a great feature team. So meaning that getting people from different functions, different components, and let this team develop features from end to end, right? So this sounds very simple idea, right? Just get people, great feature team. If you look at feature team, at least in my experience, when I look at feature teams in the field, I found that maybe more than 80% of feature team, if you take a closer look, what happens is really the dependencies and silos are still there, but just happens within the team. Right? There's still dependencies between team members. Some members were waiting for other members. And integration, there's still silos. Team members may only look at their own specialty. They are not motivated to work together, or they are not capable of doing so. So it seems that this feature team only solve the problem at a more granular level. It's if you open that up, you find the same problem. So that's actually one of the common misconceptions about feature team. Because this is why we need to contrast the feature team with the feature group. So what I described, unfortunately, that's a common case in our field. The majority of feature teams are really feature groups. So I wouldn't go through all those contrasting points, but I would like to focus on only one of them. So that's shared responsibility. Feature teams really need to take shared responsibility, while feature group, within the feature group, each member is still focusing on their specialty area. So what's the challenge of taking shared responsibility? This is a challenge. Suppose that we have static skill, but our requirements are dynamic, so they change. So it's inevitable that every now and then we will find mismatch, right? So if there's a mismatch, we have two approaches. One is we change the requirements to match our skill, right? Another approach is we change our skill to match the requirements. Which one should we go? It seems very easy. We should go the second one, right? But unfortunately, what happens more is the first approach. We change our requirements to meet our skill, right? I know that it sounds a bit absurd. This is really about asking customers, say, you need to change some requirements so that our specialists can be busy, right? So ask customers solve our problem, right? That happens quite often. So the second, more reasonable approach is, of course, we change our skills. Then we call it develop multi-specialist. Right? That's a key element in the feature team. If there's no multi-learning, something is wrong. Sometimes I meet a situation where the team say, they follow the priority. Priority is set based on value. But on the other hand, everybody just needs to work on their own specialty. Something is wrong, right? How likely? It's unlikely that you work on the own specialty then all the time following the value-based priority, unless the priority has already taken into account your skill. Right? So you can check that whether you have actually taken team skill into account when setting the priority. You shouldn't do that, right? That's a main driver for multi-learning. Okay. So we need to see how can we drive this multi-learning and feature team, real feature team. So that requires some organizational design. Thomas also shared this picture. This is called STAR model. This is an organizational design model created by Jay Galbraith. So if you look at here, there are 5 elements that they are all interconnected. Then the way that I look at this is the strategy decides what to optimize. In many traditional organizations, it's probably implicitly, but it's actually for task efficiency. So they create component team, functional team, that's perfectly matching their optimization goal. But if we would like to do, by the way, there are also processes matching this, reward, for example, you focus on the individual efficiency, and you hire specialists, you promote specialists, and so on. So it's a system that's consistent, right? But then if we would like to switch our focus from task efficiency to feature delivery, that requires organizational redesign. So what it means is that we would like to optimize for feature delivery. So we change our structure from component team or function team to feature teams. Then we also need to change other things, like process-wise, how do we divide our tasks, for example, right? Reward system, how much do we reward the team instead of individuals? Right? What kind of people do we hire? If anybody that you hire only want to work on their specialty, then it wouldn't be consistent with the rest of organizational design. So that will give you the motivation. If you set organizational design right, then that gives the team members motivation to develop themselves into a real feature team. Initially, they only work on their own specialty, but over time, they expand their skills. Their boundary become blurred. Eventually, they become a cohesive feature team. But motivation is one thing, capability is another thing. We also need to enable them to do more multi-learning. In this case, it's cross-functional learning, cross-component learning. I put 2 examples here. One of the techniques, or 2 techniques that can help us do more multi-learning. Specification, by example, is a quite popular technique where we gather people from different functions to look at the same requirement to clarify that. Then you get this kind of cross-functional learning quite naturally out of that activity. Then we do pair and more programming on the same components. Right? Okay, that completes I should say the feature team actually plays a very important role in making this shift from task efficiency to feature delivery. But would feature mean value? So that's the next question we need to ask. Is feature team also working is feature team actually working on feature delivery or creating value? I think that question, because I know there has been some confusion, like some people will mistake the feature team as the team just delivering feature without considering whether this is variable or not. This is someone else's job. But I see it this way. I take that question into really can a product bag or item be a custom problem? or a business goal. If you can put custom problem and business goal as a product backlog item into your product backlog, in my view, we can. Then the feature team really solving custom problems and try to achieve business goals, right? So I would say, in my view, feature team is already working on the value creation. So we updated our product organizational design a bit. We changed our optimization goal from feature delivery to value delivery. We still, the feature team will do the job already, but we need to change some other things like rewards. If we previously measure the number of features we deliver, now probably we need to measure the amount of value we create. Right? We also need to add more tools, techniques into our normal events. For example, in PBR, product backlog refinement, instead of only focusing on clarifying the requirements, we should focus more on the value. And we introduced tools like impact mapping to make it visible how this feature is supposed to contribute to the business goal. Things like that. All right, so feature team plays very important role to help us shift folks from task to feature and creating value. It's likely that it's still at local level. Why? Because that each feature team may still have their own backup. Let's say this feature team works on this domain, tools domain, hotels domain. Then what they can do is optimize value inside their domain. So we need next step to move away from local value optimization to global value optimization. That's how this one product backlog thing fits in. So one product backlog means multiple feature teams share one product backlog. They work on whatever highest value thing, regardless of the domains. Again, we need to look at how we can change the organizational design to reflect that change in optimization goal. So instead of focusing on the value delivery at local scale, and we now change our strategy to optimize for global value. Then we need to change our feature teams. It's still feature team, but it needs to be flexible. You can work on whatever domain having the highest value work. Then we need to also change other things. For example, we don't only measure the local value, but also overall value, measure overall value. So this organizational redesign will create a motivation for the teams to break down their boundaries. You can work together, take a shared responsibility. At a different level. It's a previous feature team. Every team members take shared responsibility. They break down the internal boundary across team members. But now it goes next level. The teams, in the beginning, they work individually. Each team works more or less independently. But over time, they actually want to work together, interdependently. Then it also requires capability. That will mean now we need to do more multi-learning across domains. This could happen in multi-team PBR in less environment. Okay, that completes the journey, right? Using feature team, move from task focus, task efficiency, to feature delivery, creating value at local level, and then using one product backlog to enable the global value optimization. Okay, So now we would like to add AI leverage, right? So with AI, what do we get? So firstly, I found that in my experience, a lot of companies actually they adopt AI mostly within their current organizational structure. So this will mean that they focus on the task level. Like different functional people, they try to use the different AI tools to support their own function. Like UI UX designer using tools to speed up their design work, developers for their development work, testers for their testing work, and so on. I've seen positive results, at least at task efficiency level. So I don't elaborate that. But we've already learned that local efficiency or task efficiency doesn't automatically translate into feature or value, right? So one thing we should watch is really if you have some kind of cumulative flow diagram, you should watch like the WIP, WIP, whether it increases with the AI adoption. The chances are some teams actually increase their local efficiency very much, but since they couldn't complete things from end to end, so their increased velocity or increased efficiency becomes a higher WIP somewhere in the system. Okay, we've learned that the feature team is a critical element in making this transition from task to feature to value. So we will look at how AI can support the adoption of feature team. Look at here. So organizational design really focusing very much creating the motivation for the feature team to work together and so on. But we also need multi-learning to grow our capability, right? So then the question becomes more, how can we make use of AI to support our cross-functional and cross-component learning? Right? Instead of just focusing on single function, single component, trying to see how AI can help improve our local efficiency. What we can do, or it's actually more valuable for the adoption of feature team, is really how to support our multi-learning. Once you've done that, you start to develop more multi-specialist. Then a few things I suggest you to observe. One thing is that the size of feature team. We all know that small team has a lot of advantage. Their communication cost will be low. They can work more effectively. They can be more accountable. Things like that. But one of the challenges in forming small team is really our skill level. Whether we have broad skills, right? If we are able to using AI to broaden our skill level, then chances are you can have more small-sized teams. Right? Maybe it used to be 7, 8 people. Now we probably have 4, 5 people. That would be the normal size. So this is something that I suggest you to take a look. Another thing is will feature team scope expand? You probably keep the same size, but they can expand their scope. Right? Because every team member gets more broad skills. Right? Then with 7, 8 people you can cover this size, this scope, and now you can cover more scope. Right? But here, one of the interesting things is quite often there's one limiting fact coming from your organizational boundary. Right? How how big this team scope can be expanded, it's very much constrained by your organizational boundary. Quite often, it's a true limiting fact. Then, if you need to, if you want to actually expand scope, you need to do some level of organizational redesign, right, to support that. Okay, so we look at next part. So from local value to global value. One product backlog is a critical element in shifting, in making shift. So again, we can look at organizational design creates motivation, but here there's multi-learning to support creating the capability. So the question becomes, how can we use AI to support the multi-learning across domains? Right? How can we learn more effectively, quickly, different domains, to create that flexibility necessary to for us to work on one backlog? Then a few things worth watching. One is the size of product backlog items. Suppose that our efficiency gets high, we can deliver more items. And one of the limiting factors to share one product backlog, for sharing one product backlog is a prioritization. So when you have a big amount of number of items, the prioritization gets harder, right? So if every item remains the same, the size of item remains the same, we may get a lot more items in one product backlog. But it's very likely that the size of the product backlog item will also become larger. Because let's say this item used to take 2 weeks, then in that case, usually we need to split that up, right, into smaller items. But now it may only take 2 days. Then we just keep it, right? So this will also change. So this is something that, why does it matter? Again, it's related to the number of items that you need to, or product owner need to prioritize. Another thing is quite straightforward. So we need to look at whether the number of feature teams will decrease. Like for one product, if we keep the same scope and everything the same, then if the only difference is that the feature teams can deliver more values, then probably for the same size of product, now previously it requires 10 teams, now only 5 teams. So essentially it will become, from that perspective, we will have more less basic setup than less huge setup. Last one. This is an interesting one. I have actually in good times, so-called good times, that I found that most organizations didn't care very much about the waste associated with local optimization. It's really good time. We have lots of money. We don't care, those kind of small wastes. Actually, it's an economic downturn that drives the folks on global value. This is interesting. I had a few clients. Usually, it's all started. If they are doing very well financially, they really don't care. They don't look for less. But this is a downturn that triggers, kind of wakes up everybody. Are we really working on the most valuable things? But I'm just afraid that this AI at least gives some impression that now we again get lots of capacity with cheap cost, right? Then I'm afraid that it may dilute the folks of looking for global value. When you have unlimited capacity, you don't care. You just deliver everything that you can think of. Some of things will turn out to be valuable. Right? This will be different than the initial idea in labs that we would like to really only working on globally valuable stuff. So this is something that you can watch for as well. All right, that's a summary. So we would like to shift our team's focus from task efficiency to gradually towards feature delivery and value creation, well, initially at local scale and gradually globally. Then feature team and one product backlog. These are, as you know, like two critical elements in glass can support that transition. Right? But then we can leverage both organizational design, mainly for motivation part. Or sometimes I should say it's probably more about removing demotivating factors than creating motivating factors. But anyway, so organizational design and AI, AI can be very useful, very powerful in supporting our multi-learning at various dimensions, cross-functional, cross-component, cross-domain. So we leverage both to create this transition through adopting feature teams and one product. Yeah, that's my sharing.